We are not impressive animals. Not really. Take away our clothes and our tools, and what are you left with? A soft, slow, clumsy primate. We have no claws to speak of. Our teeth are dull and pathetic, made for grinding plants and cooked meat, not for tearing into a live animal. We can't outrun a deer, we can't outfight a bear, we can't even see well in the dark. On the ancient savannah, we were a walking buffet, helpless. So how did we get here? How did this weak, fragile ape end up in charge of the entire planet? The answer isn't in our muscles or our speed. It's in our heads and in our hands, and the first thing our heads and hands figured out together was the weapon. The story of human evolution is the story of our tools, and the story of our tools is, from the very beginning, the story of our weapons. They are what gave us the edge. It all started simply: a rock, a stick. Imagine one of our earliest ancestors, maybe an Australopithecus millions of years ago. It's small, hairy, and terrified. A pack of hyenas has brought down a wildebeest. They are ripping it apart. Our ancestor's hungry. There's a mountain of protein and fat right there, but getting to it means facing a set of powerful jaws. Alone, our ancestor is toast. But it has an idea. It picks up a heavy stone. It's not much, but it's something. It can be thrown. It can make a loud noise when it hits the ground. It can be used to smash things. Our ancestor, with a few others, might run at the hyenas, screaming and throwing rocks. Maybe it works. Maybe the hyenas, confused by this strange new behavior, back off for a moment. In that moment, our ancestor doesn't have time to eat the meat. But it can use another rock, a sharper one, to crack open a thick leg bone. Inside is the marrow. It's incredibly rich in fat and calories. It's brain food. And with that one simple act, everything changed. We weren't just scavengers anymore. We were scavengers with tools. The first weapon wasn't for killing. It was for creating distance. It was a force equalizer. A stick extends your reach. A thrown rock means you can affect something over there while you are safely over here. For an animal with no natural defenses, distance is life. Keeping a predator's teeth and claws a few feet farther away from your soft flesh is the ultimate evolutionary advantage. This simple act started a feedback loop that would define our entire species. Using a tool, even a simple rock, requires a certain kind of brain. You have to see a rock not just as a rock, but as a potential tool. You have to understand cause and effect. If I hit this bone with this rock, it will crack open. That takes planning. The reward for that planning was a richer diet. More marrow, more meat. Those extra calories didn't just go to making us stronger. They went to our most energy-hungry organ, the brain. A bigger, more powerful brain could think of better ways to use tools. It could imagine better tools. Better tools meant more food, which meant an even bigger brain. Rock to marrow to brain to better rock. Over and over for millions of years, this is the engine that drove us out of the trees and onto the path of world domination. Soon, we weren't just picking up rocks, we started making them better. This is the next giant leap. A creature called Homo habilis, the handyman, was one of the first to do this. They would take one stone and smash it against another, chipping off sharp flakes. These old Darwin tools, as we call them, look crude to us. They're barely more than broken rocks. But they were revolutionary. A sharp flake of flint is sharper than a lion's tooth. It's sharper than a steel scalpel. With it, you can slice through a thick hide in seconds. You can butcher a carcass with incredible speed, grabbing the best meat and running before the big predators show up. Eater, you are no longer just a bone smasher, you are a butcher, you are moving up the food chain. Then came Homo erectus, taller, smarter, and with a much better weapon, the Acheulean hand axe. This wasn't just a chipped rock. This was a designed object. It was symmetrical, shaped like a teardrop. It was worked on both sides. It fit perfectly in the human hand. Making one took skill, patience, and a clear mental picture of the finished product. The hand axe was the Swiss Army knife of the Stone Age. You could use the sharp edge to cut meat. You could use the pointed tip to dig for roots or water. You could use the heavy base to hammer things. And yes, you could use it as a weapon. A heavy, sharp-pointed rock thrown with force or used in close quarters would be a devastating thing. It was so successful, so perfectly suited to its purpose, that we kept making them the same way for over a million years. A million years. Think about that. Our entire recorded history, from the pyramids to the iPhone, is a tiny blip compared to the reign of the hand axe. With this new toolkit, Homo erectus did something no hominin had done before. It walked out of Africa, it spread across Asia and Europe. The hand axe was its ticket to the world. It allowed this new kind of human to adapt to new environments, to process new kinds of food, and to compete with new predators. We were no longer just surviving, we were expanding. The next step was to kill from a greater distance. Butchering a dead animal is one thing, killing a live one is another. Getting close to a large angry animal is a very good way to get killed. So we invented the spear. The first spears were probably just long, straight sticks with the end sharpened in a fire. The Schonigen spears, found in Germany, are about 400,000 years old. They are beautifully balanced, designed for throwing, like modern javelins. This is a profound change in strategy. This is organized hunting. A simple wooden spear is a good weapon. But a group of hunters with spears is a force of nature. This technology didn't just change our diet, it changed our society. To hunt a mammoth, you need a team. You need communication, you need a plan. You need leaders and followers. You need to be able to trust the person next to you. The spear forced us to become more social, more cooperative. We learned to work together to bring down prey that no single one of us could ever face alone. Our cousins, the Neanderthals, were masters of this. They were incredibly strong and tough. They hunted huge animals in Ice Age Europe. Their weapons of choice were heavy thrusting spears. They were ambush predators. They would get in close, in the thick of it, and use their immense strength to drive their spears into mammoths and woolly rhinos. It was effective, but it was brutal. Neanderthal skeletons often show healed fractures and injuries, much like modern rodeo riders. Their lives were a constant violent struggle, and then we, Homo sapiens, showed up. We were not as strong as Neanderthals. We were lankier, more graceful. In a one-on-one fight, a Neanderthal would probably tear us apart. But we had a smarter weapon. We had a better understanding of physics. We had the projectile. We didn't just throw our spears, we invented a tool to throw them better. The atlatl, or spear thrower. It's a simple device, just a stick with a hook or a cup on the end that grips the spear. But it acts as an extension of your arm, a lever. It multiplies the force you can generate. A spear thrown with an atlatl can fly faster, farther, and with far more penetrating power than one thrown by hand. This was a revolution. It was the Stone Age equivalent of a rifle. A Neanderthal hunter had to get within a few feet of his prey, risking being gored or trampled. A human hunter with an atlatl could stand 50 yards away, a safe distance, and hurl a dart with enough force to punch through thick hide and bone. We could hunt more safely, we could hunt more efficiently, we could hunt a wider variety of animals, from small, fast-moving game to the largest megafauna. This technological advantage may have been one of the key reasons we thrived while the Neanderthals faded away. We outthought them, not outfought them. Our weapons gave us a killer edge. But projectile revolution didn't stop there. The next great invention was the bow and arrow. It's an even more complex system. It stores energy in the bent wood of the bow and releases it suddenly into the arrow. It's quieter than an atlatl. The arrows are lighter, so you can carry more of them. It requires even more skill to make and use, a deeper understanding of materials and mechanics. With the bow and arrow, we became the undisputed masters of the planet. No animal was safe. We could hunt in dense forests and open plains. We pushed into every corner of the globe, from the frozen Arctic to the remote islands of the Pacific. And wherever we went, the largest animals tended to disappear. The mammoths, the giant sloths, the saber-toothed cats. There's a big debate about whether we hunted them to extinction or if climate change was the main culprit. But it's hard to look at the timeline and not see a connection. Our deadly new efficiency came at a cost. The predator had become a super predator, but there's a dark side to this story. A weapon that is good for killing an animal is also good for killing a person. For a long time, we like to imagine our hunter-gatherer ancestors as peaceful people, living in harmony with nature. The evidence tells a different story. The same ingenuity that we used to hunt, we also used to kill each other. At a place called Jebel Sahaba in Sudan, there is a cemetery that is 13,000 years old. Many of the skeletons buried there died violent deaths. They have bits of stone projectile points embedded in their bones. They were shot with arrows speared. This wasn't a single fight. It was sustained, organized violence. It was war. Once our weapons became truly lethal at a distance, the nature of human conflict changed forever. A fistfight is one thing, it's personal, but shooting someone with an arrow from 100 yards away is different. It's impersonal, it's easier. Our weapons allowed us to kill more efficiently, and that included killing our own kind. This created another feedback loop, a social one. If your neighbors have bows and you only have clubs, you are at a serious disadvantage. So you need to get bows too, or you need to develop a better defense, like a shield or a fortified village. This is the beginning of the arms race, a process that has continued right up to the present day. The invention of agriculture led to settlements, property, and surplus food. Suddenly, there was something to fight over, and our weapons evolved to meet the new demand. The next great leap was metallurgy. Working with stone is a subtractive process. You chip away until you get the shape you want. Working with metal is different. You can melt it, cast it, and shape it. You can make it stronger. You can create things you could never make out of stone. First came bronze, an alloy of copper and tin. A bronze sword is a terrifying thing compared to a stone axe. It doesn't shatter, it can be made long and sharp, it can be used to slash and to thrust. With bronze came armor, helmets, shields, breastplates. Now, warfare was not just about hunting tactics. It was about formations, discipline, and technology. The Bronze Age gave rise to the first empires. The Egyptians, the Hittites, the Mycenaeans, their power was built on their ability to equip and field armies of professional soldiers. And a farmer with a sharpened stick stood no chance against a trained warrior in a bronze helmet, carrying a bronze shield and a bronze sword. The weapon didn't just give humans an edge over animals, it gave some humans an edge over other humans. It created hierarchies, it built kingdoms on the backs of the conquered. Then came iron. Iron is harder than bronze and much more common. Now, whole armies could be equipped with metal weapons. The Assyrians, the Romans, their legions, armed with iron swords and spears, marched across the known world. The Roman palum, a heavy iron-tipped javelin, was designed to bend on impact so it couldn't be thrown back. The gladius, a short, stabbing sword, was brutally effective in the crush of close-quarters combat. Their success was a story of organization and engineering, and at the heart of it was superior weaponry. For centuries, the basic formula stayed the same: sharp metal, armor, and the strength of the men holding them. The knight in shining armor was the pinnacle of this kind of warfare, a walking tank, protected from head to toe, wielding a massive steel sword. He was the product of 1,000 years of weapon evolution, and then he was made obsolete overnight by a new invention from China. Gunpowder. The first guns were crude, inaccurate, and slow to load, but they had one incredible advantage. They required no strength to use. A peasant who had never held a sword in his life could be taught to fire a gun in a few hours. And a lead ball from that gun could punch right through the finest steel armor and kill the knight inside. Gunpowder was the great equalizer. It shattered the old feudal order. The power of the aristocratic warrior class vanished in a cloud of smoke. It democratized killing. Armies were no longer made up of a few elite knights and a mob of poorly armed peasants. They were made up of huge blocks of infantry, all armed with muskets. The scale of war exploded. Battles that had once involved tens of thousands of men now involved hundreds of thousands. The weapons got better and better. Rifling made muskets more accurate. The percussion cap made them more reliable. Breech loading guns made them faster to fire. With these weapons, European powers sailed across the oceans and built global empires. A small number of soldiers with guns could defeat vast armies armed with swords and spears. The technological gap was just too wide. The edge that weapons provided was now being used to subjugate entire continents. The story that began with a rock to get some extra food had become a story of global conquest. The 20th century saw this process accelerate to a terrifying speed. The Industrial Revolution wasn't just about factories and trains, it was about mass-producing death. The machine gun. It could fire hundreds of rounds a minute. A single man with a machine gun could hold off 100 men with rifles. It turned the battlefields of World War I into slaughterhouses, where men were mowed down in waves. Then came the tank, the armored beast that could cross no man's land. The airplane, which took war into a new dimension. Poison gas, submarines. The feedback loop was spinning out of control. Every new weapon demanded a new defense, which in turn inspired an even deadlier weapon. Science, the very thing that grew from our big, tool-making brains, was now fully dedicated to finding more efficient ways for us to kill one another. And then we reached the end of the line. In 1945, we unleashed the final weapon, the atomic bomb. This was not just a bigger bomb, it was a different kind of weapon entirely. It released the power locked inside the atom itself. A single device could destroy an entire city in a flash of light. The atomic bomb is the logical conclusion of the story that started with a thrown rock. The goal was always to gain an edge, to create distance, to project power. We got so good at it that we created a weapon capable of wiping ourselves off the face of the planet. The edge it gives us is the edge of a cliff. For the first time in our history, we have the power to cause our own extinction. The arms race didn't stop. We built hydrogen bombs 1,000 times more powerful than the first atomic bombs. We put them on missiles that can travel from one continent to another in 30 minutes. We put them on submarines that hide silently in the depths of the ocean. We live in a world shaped by these weapons. The constant tension, the fear, the knowledge that a political miscalculation could end everything. The very tools that allowed our fragile species to survive and conquer the planet now hold us all hostage. The story of our weapons is the story of us. It shows our incredible ingenuity, our ability to solve problems, to cooperate, to reshape the world to our will. But it also shows our other side, our capacity for violence, our tribalism, our fear of the other. The same hand that can patiently chip a flint into a life-saving tool can also use that tool to kill a brother. We started out as the hunted, we used our minds to make weapons that made us the hunters. Then we used those weapons on each other, becoming our own worst predator. Now we stand at the peak of our power, armed with the fire of the sun, and we have to wonder if we have the wisdom to control it. The edge our weapons gave us was the ability to win any fight. The question now is whether we are smart enough to stop fighting. Because the next big war will be fought with weapons that will leave no one left to claim the victory.